Please welcome back Gabriel Mascaro. And we also have the film's producer with us, Rachel Ellis, who's going to maybe answer some questions and also help with translation. So I think there's a lot to talk about, but let's just start with with the vaquejada. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your sort of degree of familiarity with it. It's something that I understand is very particular to the northeast of Brazil, which is where you're from.
That's right, speaking English. Yeah, the vaquejada historically is really associated to the idea of the farmers in the start of the century cultivating the bulls in the wild when the farmers didn't have fences. And they start doing some kind of party to grab the bulls, and it became more popular. And I grew up in the city, in Recife, where I had a lot of contact with people that comes from the countryside. So I was very close to friends that it was really the country culture, very strong culturally. And when I was older, like 5 years ago, I by accident came into this huge vaquejada party, which recently has been completely reshaped, and it was very spectacularized. So it in some way it came to me very strongly to see how there is some connections, this rapid and fast development that Brazil has been facing in the last 10 years, and this agribusiness part is something huge. And lots of genetic research, horse insemination, and lots of things that historically wouldn't be imagined in northeastern culture, because historically this region was associated to poverty, starvation. Lots of literature, films, and arts in general, they used to talk about people leaving, this movement of leaving this region because these problems, issues. And I decided I tried to make a film about people that don't want to live anymore, about people that want to change the place where they are living. And this road movie is not taking them to anywhere. They are doing some kind of cyclical movements, no? So the conflicts in the film are really focused in these small gestures, the small silence, the small minimal situations that the day-to-day presented to them as a challenge, no?
So just to hear you describe that it sounds like there's a very strong documentary impulse. You have worked in documentary and sort of on the edge of documentary and fiction, but with this film, I'm wondering how I guess how close it is. How documentary is it? Because there are certain aspects of the film that seem to drift quite far from that and towards more like fantastical or slightly surreal elements. Like, is this a fairly accurate depiction of the vaquejada? Would we find a cowboy who wants to be a fashion designer?
It's quite funny because the film has just been released in Brazil, and some people, they say, oh my God, it's exactly like it is nowadays in the Northeast. But the other side, there is a lot of tweets from farmers and cowboys. They'd say, it's not true. No cowboys, the real cowboys, would like to leave the vaquejada to be a fashion designer. It's not true. So it's funny.
But they iron their hair though.
and actually in the research, I really met a real person that really inspired me. It was my first starting point when I was, oh my God, that's something interesting and intriguing in terms of this guy that in the reality he works in the livestock, and he would shift and work a few hours later in the fashion in the textile industry.
Right.
Because just information, this region Brazil has changed a lot, and the development brings some kind of textile factor specialized in software. So all the software in Brazil comes from this almost desertic place without water. And these contradictions and this ambiguity of this imposed development and this personal this imposing development there is some connection in terms of how these human relationships are being reshaped very fast. And yes, and I try to use some real elements, but at the same time it's fictionalizing and mixing and blending this almost realistic experience with this very strong day-to-day life of this group of people, almost observational.
Observational. So we're talking a lot about sort of this socioeconomic aspects and of the region, but it seems like gender is such an important part of this film. I mean, just even the idea of the cowboy, the emblem of masculinity, and this this idea of the fashion designer, in particular, the fashion that he's designing to, and can you talk a little bit about just wanting to examine or do something with gender roles? I'm not sure that you're really subverting them, but you're doing something quite interesting with gender in these films with the various characters that you've assembled.
Yes, I tried to not necessarily invert, but expand these notions of bodily experience, no? And so it's not a film about male that has female skills and not the opposite, but how we can understand it in some kind of expanding possibilities in this place where we clearly associate it to some expectations, no? If I said, it's a film about cowboy, we create a lot of sexist, preconceived ideas, no? And if I say, the cowboy, they want to be a fashion designer, so it's a film about a gay character. So we are always trying to create, let's say, difficult, even in Portuguese. Put people in boxes and try to create a clear identity, So and for me, that I was researching this region. One of the pop stars, the singer, is really like Junior, the character. He every day posts tweets with taking Wesley Safadão, that's his name. Every day he posts photos taking care of the bodies, and it's very interesting to see this macho culture facing some new perspectives, new ideas of masculinity. So I try to suspend these experiences and create something that I could provoke in terms of expectations. And the film deals with this kind of the expectations we create, and the film slowly by slowly breaks some expectations and take us to different layers, different possibilities of looking to what they are. For example, there is a scene where I like is when Junior is ironing his hair. It's very funny. It's very common that people laugh a lot. And then, without cutting, without doing any cinematic movement force, very manipulating the feelings, we can see just one eyes where the Galega, the driver, is looking to the guy. She's appreciating the way he's taking care of his hair. So we start with the film in some way, let us be in contact with the way of they are relating to each other, and the characters do not judge themselves, no, and neither judge each other. Yes.
I guess to follow up on that, maybe you could say a little bit more about your work with the cinematographer. I think you shot August Winds yourself, right? But here you're working with Diego Garcia, I think one of the most talented young DPs around. People may know him. He shot Apichatpong, Versatical Cemetery of Splendor as well. And just what you were saying, it's the visual language of the film is very composed, and there's a certain distance. At the same time, it's also a very sensual film, and I think that's an interesting sort of tension there.
That's a very curious question, because we spent lots of time living together for 1 month thinking about this film, and it was very curious to understand how it was very important in this film, because it didn't have a lot of cuts and different angles and point of view, to really think about the distance, no? Distance between the camera, the device, and the bodies, no? And we understood together that as closer we were to the characters, we were reinforcing stereotypes, like creating some kind of
that they were emptying the presence of so reducing the presence and the importance of the characters' feelings and sentiments.
E quanto que a gente recuava, a gente descobria um empoderamento, uma força muito grande que os corpos ganhavam na.
And when they brought the camera back, so they distanced themselves from the characters, they were actually empowering the characters within the scene, so giving them space to breathe and act out their scenes.
E curiosamente, quanto mais distância, mais próximo da intimidade a gente estava deles, dos personagens.
So they felt that the further away that the camera came, they were actually bringing the audience and spectators closer to the characters and their feelings and the intimacy of the characters.
Did that apply with animals as well? I mean, it's a film about, as you said, the film about the body, but it's not just human bodies, but animal bodies, how humans relate to animals and how we film animals too.
Sim, de alguma maneira, para mim, foi muito importante pensar filme sobre as hierarquias do corpo.
So for Gabriel, it was very important to think about the hierarchy of bodies in cinema, both animal and human.
E nesse caso, pensando no animal, assim, não era necessariamente animalizar os humanos, nem humanizar os animais.
So in this respect, it wasn't about animalizing humans or humanizing animals.
Mas sim tentar encontrar e pensar essa mesma distância justa, se isso existe, né? Não existe justiça, né? Mas encontrar uma imagem possível, né, para esteticamente, né, dialogar com esses corpos, sejam eles animais ou
Rather,
humanos.
the idea was about finding a distance, if that exists, and a just way of observing these bodies, both animal and human.
I think we can open it up to the audience. I'm sure there are questions. So if you want to just raise your hands if you have any. Yes, sorry. Yep. A question about the casting of the pregnant actor, described as beautiful and shocking for us here. You mean for Americans? Okay.
Don't talk the name of the Americans, né? Para mim foi uma escolha, não foi por acidente, assim, foi casting de atrizes grávidas durante a etapa de filmagem.
Yeah, so it was a choice. It was a deliberate choice to have a very pregnant actress for that scene, for that character. So not with no prosthetics or anything. She had to be pregnant.
Para mim é filme sobre a paisagem, os corpos nessa paisagem em transformação e os corpos criando uma mudança nas relações humanas.
So throughout the film, Gabriel looking at the bodies and the transformation of the human landscape.
E de alguma maneira o personagem do Iremar, ele cultiva um desejo, né, pela aquela fábrica, assim. Então quando ele entra lá, ele entra quase que num templo, né?
So with the character of Iremar, he's like amazed by this factory that he goes into that represents his desire that he has to become a fashion designer. And so it's almost like him going into a temple, a religious temple. So when
e no lugar que se corta o tecido, né, em larga escala para a produção industrial, né, para cobrir as pessoas, eles ficam nus.
And so when he goes into this room, which is where they cut the fabric and in a large scale, it's like that's where the place where they become naked together.
E a mulher grávida no Brasil, especialmente no Nordeste, assim, tem uma associação muito próxima com a coisa de santificação, da puridade.
So in Brazil, and particularly in the northeast of Brazil, the idea of a pregnant woman, there's an idea of purity about a pregnant woman, and kind of you have to treat her in a pure way, almost as a saint.
Alguns vaqueiros machões nem sequer fazem sexo com a própria mulher grávida.
So there would be a lot of like very macho cowboys who wouldn't even have sex with their partner or wife if they were pregnant.
E de alguma maneira no filme é uma mulher grávida que, como qualquer outra, ela tem uma situação de desejo, de escolha, de domínio do corpo, de fazer essas escolhas, e tem um momento com o Iremar.
So in the film, the idea is that this woman, she's a pregnant woman who she has her sexual desires, as any woman, pregnant woman has her sexual desires, and Gabriel wanted to show that in the film. With this woman, she's attracted to Iremar, and she wanted to have this experience, sexual experience with him.
E por que não uma mulher grávida também?
And Gabriel, and why not a pregnant woman?
Para completar, e também assim tem uma coisa e o que a gente imagina que seria um tabu, de alguma maneira o filme tenta aproximar para uma normalização que faz a gente, por um momento, talvez sentir um pouco esse choque, mas depois a gente entra, né, na escala de experiência que eles estão vivendo ali, naquele desejo mesmo, um desejo compartilhado, assim. Então a gente fica entrando e saindo da cena, mas a cena tem tempo suficiente, por isso que ela é longa, para a gente sair desses pensamentos do porquê e entrar numa experiência compartilhada mesmo.
So, because there is a taboo around the idea of sexuality of a pregnant woman and the scene of a very pregnant woman having sex, the idea of the scene was also to normalize that situation, so that that's partly why it's so long, is so that initially when the spectator's shocked by the scene, that there's time to then adjust and have this shared experience with the characters and with this scene and it seem normal and natural.
Tem várias situações no filme onde poderias, né, cair num lugar, né, de pitoresco, mas eu tento aproximar isso de um mundo ordinário possível.
So there's several moments in the film where it could seem just very picturesque, but then with the time try to this become more normalized and more ordinary.
Yes. Question about who the central protagonist is in his dramatic arc. Do you see Iremar as the center of the film, and is he changed over the course of it?
Essa eu acho que é a pergunta mais difícil de todas. I think this one is the most difficult question. Not me even know who's the protagonist. And I think the film in some way introduced us into different experience. And the characters doesn't sound to have antagonists, no? There is not clear conflict, in terms of this classical expectation, what you would expect in this kind of narrative arc. Mas é um Can you help me? Mas é um filme que é sobre o cotidiano, né? E esses conflitos, né, aparecem de forma muito mínima entre esses momentos de vida que eles compartilham juntos.
But it's a film about the day-to-day and the conflicts and the tensions happen in small moments in the day-to-day lives of the characters.
Para mim, o maior conflito do filme vem do silêncio da Cacá, da menina. O maior conflito do filme vem do silêncio que a Cacá tem.
So one of the biggest conflicts of tensions in the film comes from the silences of Cacá, the little girl in the film.
E eu acho que é um filme que ele deliberadamente ele não aposta, né, na estratégia de contar a história a partir de um protagonista.
So the idea of the film that it tries to avoid telling or bet on telling a story that doesn't necessarily need to figure around one protagonist or one central character.
Yeah. Question about the dancer with the horse's head, which initially may seem like a fantasy, but also appears in a real situation. And you say a little bit about that.
Eu concordo. Eu acho que o filme como um todo ele constrói momentos onde a fantasia, né, é muito presente e a gente quase que se suspende nesse mundo da fantasia. E às vezes, quando pouco percebe, está dentro de um mundo que poderia ser quase um documentário, né? Então acho que o filme ele dialoga com esses dois estados de sentimento mesmo.
So yeah, he agrees with you that it's very present, the idea of the fantasy in the film and then the documentary, and that you go between these moments where you're really in this fantasy world and then you're brought down to this very documentary elements that could be documentary, and that the film plays with that and goes from one to the other.
E sim, essa figura, né, quase mitológica, né, da mulher com cavalo, que poderia também cair quase na fantasia, né, sexista, ela oscila entre esse excesso de sexismo desse mundo da vaquejada, mas como também numa força corpórea muito estranha, né, e deslocada dessa mulher que tem hora que ela faz assim, né? Então tem um gesto corpóreo que às vezes vai para sedução, fetiche, mas vai para um outro caminho que também oscila entre um empoderamento, né? Então é uma performance confusa mesmo, ambígua.
So the idea that the figure of this woman, who's both woman and horse, and it plays between this sensuality and the sexuality of her figure in the dance, but then also this the powerful woman, and a woman who there's the moment when she goes like this, and so there's this force, and so it's going between the idea of the flirting with sexism, and then the fetish, and then the force of her as a character within the film as well.
Yep. Did you hear that? The screenwriting and what?
So what was the process of the screenwriting during the research and then doing the filming, and then how that, with the process that seems very much based in the day-to-day, is that?
So basically what Rachel said, screenwriting and the research process.
So how did the research feed into the screenwriting and then the screenwriting?
Yes, I spent almost 3 years writing the script and traveling in these parties. It wasn't very pleasant because the part is so intense, the world is very sexist, and in the first moment I was trying to make a film about the farmers, the owner of the horse, and then I discovered the cowboy that works in the textile industry. So I came to the backstage of this event and so I researched and researched and researched, and of course this process of researching really helps to develop a script. Yes, it was very rich process where I could really meet a lot of country cultural activities, and it really helped me to write. What's the question?
Yes. This question is about this culturally specific responses to the film, because Gabriel has now shown it in Brazil and I guess quite many other places.
Yes, definitely. Each screen is very special, different background, different cultures, and it's when the film is screened internationally. One of the first question is about how was to work with non-professional actors, and actually the film has 3 actors, so it's interesting to see how something like that can change the expectations, and it's funny to when I say that the people.
Your lead actor is quite well known.
Yes,
in
well
Brazil.
known in
Yes.
soap operas, Brazilian TV soap operas. So yes, but there's a lot of different reactions. For example, the film has been programmed in specific cinema that like it's not common to show art house films, and just because it's about vaquejada, rodeo, in Brazil some cinemas program just because the subject like rodeo, no, like cowboys, and then the cowboys came, oh my god, and the farmers like, oh my god, like, and sometimes the whole family like was into this screen, and it was no, please, the kids, the children, no, but you can't, no, okay, I'm okay. So it was like, yes, and curiously, some farmers was very happy. Oh wow, for the first time we're gonna show our culture of our farm life. And then 1 week after the screening, they figured, no, do not go to this film because it's not promoting our farmer activities. So it was curious to see these different appreciations. No, it's always quite intense and special and unrepeatable. Each screen is very unique.
Yeah.
The state of Paraíba and Pernambuco is very strong. The vaquejada we shot in both states, and they are very strong culturally. The vaquejada is very strong, so it was very natural for us to shoot in these 2 states in Brazil.
It's sort of a follow-up question about gender roles and the mention of sexism and how, I guess, directly did you want that to be a message?
Yes, and expand these notions. No, the characters are having experience, and their bodies are alive. They are having experiences. And for example, for me, the sex scene with a pregnant woman, it's not a sex scene where we are confirming or proving his sexual identity or orientation. It's not a heteronormative sex scene. No, it's something beyond. No, comes not. It's not used to prove. No, he's not a gay. He's having sex with a woman. So it's not used to these effects. No. So yes, and the way the body relates to each other, the way he's so, like, the way he's cuidando dela, the way they cares about the bodies of each other in that situation, the almost forced contact is, expanding the expanding roles and these notions of gender identity.
I'll just quickly summarize. A question about whether the film is comment on parenthood and the absence of men, absence of fathers, also in relation to the character of Cacá.
Português. Eu acho que o filme lança comentários, né? Eu acho que mas ele não tenta eleger necessariamente uma resposta muito clara, porque eu acho que não é fácil identificar uma resposta muito clara para esse contexto que o filme cria, né?
So the film suggests several things and several themes, but it tries to avoid choosing just one focus or one theme or one
Clear answer. Uma resposta clara.
one response, one clear response or idea of what it's saying as a commentary.
As relações humanas naquele contexto são muito mais complexas para a gente tentar resolver.
So the human relationships within those contexts, within the context of the film, are much more complicated than any one answer could respond in terms of what's missing or what's absent.
Mas sim, a sua interpretação é.
But yes, your interpretation is it's real, it's relevant, and it's in the film.
Yep.
How is it for you as a director working with non-actors in a feature narrative?
We just said that they're actually actors. There's some non-actors, yes.
Foi uma experiência muito desafiadora, né, para mim, para os atores, né, e para os atores não profissionais, em criar uma experiência de preparação que durou quase 2 meses convivendo juntos, né.
So it was a very challenging experience both for Gabriel and for the professional actors and the non-professional actors, and they worked for almost 2 months together prior to the filming, together to create a group.
E de alguma maneira a gente leu o roteiro muito no começo, mas depois a gente meio que não ficou em cima do roteiro, a gente ficou criando exercícios enfim, de entrosamento, né.
So they, at the beginning of the preparation, they used the script as a base for the work that they did, and then they left it aside, and then were more spontaneous around working together to get the characters relating to each other and how they would react in different situations to each other.
Mas para mim foi muito mágico dirigir a Cacá.
It was very magic, especially directing Cacá, the little girl.
Porque a gente uma das direções que eu passava para ela era assim: se você não está com vontade de falar, não fala. Não precisa falar porque está memorizado. Assim, espera o momento que você acredita no que está falando e aí você fala. Não se preocupe, esse filme não tem urgência, esse filme não é um filme que vai ficar editando, vai ficar buscando esse efeito. Então é um filme que tem tempo para esperar e falar só quando você quiser.
So one of the instructions or directions that Gabriel gave to Cacá in the preparation and during the filming was that if she didn't feel the need or the desire to say her lines or to talk, she didn't need to. The silence was okay, and that she should only really say what she'd memorized when she really felt the urge that she needed to say that, and it had to come out. And that the film wasn't, and he explained to her that the film wasn't kind of being shot in a way and that it would be edited and cut, that there was time for her to really feel what she wanted to say and express.
E termina que esses momentos de silêncio e espera, enquanto ela mesma procura acreditar nela mesma, que para mim são os momentos mágicos.
So for Gabriel, these moments of silence when Cacá is waiting to say what she really feels and really believes are really magical moments in the film and in the direction process.
É quando a vida contamina a ficção.
And that's when the real life contaminates the fiction.
A Cacá é a menininha, o Zé, o gordinho, ele também é um vaqueiro de verdade, e o Josinaldo, eles são
So the non-professional actors are Cacá, the little girl, Zé, who's with a big tummy, and Josinaldo, who's the quieter vaqueiro as well, and then the other.
O Júnior fez o Central do Brasil, pequenininho.
Júnior is Vinicius de Oliveira, who was the actor who's the little boy in Central Station, Brazilian film, I would say. So now a big boy.
long hair.
And then Juliano Cazarré, who's a very well-known soap opera actor in Brazil, and Maeve Jinkings, who's also a professional actress, quite well-known.
Mas a preparação foi muito rica e esse momento com o Cacá foi muito mágico, porque a gente fez uns exercícios com ela. Tem uma cena quando ela pede, me dá um abraço, né?
So the process of the preparation for the actors was a very rich process. They did lots of different kinds of exercises, and there's the specific scene when Cacá asks Iremar for a hug, and he's doing some.
E eu lembro que o editor, que é o Fernando Epstein, ele fez, isso não vai funcionar. Filma isso em 5 takes diferentes, porque eu já sei que isso não vai funcionar.
So Fernando Epstein, who's one of the editors of the film, when he was reading the script, he said to Gabriel before the film, this scene is going to be really difficult, it's not going to work, like you need to make sure you film it from lots of different angles, because it's really risky.
E aí a gente fez um exercício na preparação que colocava o Zé sentado, em pé, sem apoio no chão. Como assim?
So they did an exercise during the preparation where they put Zé, the character Zé, up against a wall. So he had his back against the wall, but he was kneeling down. So it's a really difficult position to hold yourself.
And he's fat, so it became like this, sweating a lot. And Cacá was in control to when Zé would say, "Give me a hug," I'm suffering, and when she believed in Zé, she would allow him to leave the position. And she was like, "Oh my God, you are a liar." So she was playing a lot for almost half an hour. And Zé was like, "Give me a hug." And she, "Now you are lying, you fat guy." So it was, we were creating this tense situation, because in the film they have this tense relationship. And also creating some kind of memory where she would understand, not by herself, but by the otherness, the way of acreditar no que o outro fala, the belief in what the other person is telling. So she experienced it before. So during the scene, when she said, "Give me a hug," I said to Iremar, "Do not give a hug." So when she asked, "Give me a hug," and Iremar said, "Huh?" And she felt like I'm not being convincing. And she looks to herself for like 30 seconds. I think she is remembering the Zé situation and trying to find the way to say, "Give me a hug." So it was very magic way to also create some ludic experiences and creating and directing situation, not necessarily by the script, but also by different experience of previous experience.
Okay. We can take one final question. Yes. Question is whether the film was shot in sequence.
The sex scene with pregnant was the last one. The actor was, "Oh my God, this one should be the last one. It's going to be so difficult. I'm very nervous to do this." The actress, she was very okay, super fine to do this, but he was very nervous. He was so nervous that even did not ask about the horse masturbation. So he was.
He was okay with that.
He didn't. He forgot. He didn't think about that. He was so nervous about the pregnant scene. Then we were there to do the sex, the horse scene, and let's go, action! And he was, stop! Where's the prosthesis? Prosthetic. No, there's no prosthetic. It's gonna be for real. No way! He said no. And he said, no, stop! God, take off the horse from here. And the big horse like, boom. And I don't know, I had to explain, conceptually this film, and fuck your concept. It's my life. You're gonna go to New York Film Festival, but my life's gonna be what's gonna happen with me. My reputation. And he said, I only will make this scene if you do first. So, yes. I had this experience in my life.
All right. I think we'll end on that note. So, Gabriel, thank you so much. Rachel, thank you as well. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.